Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic marked my initiation into the world of RPGs. Before that, my gaming experiences were predominantly centered around sports games, platformers, action titles, and strategy games. So back in 2006, when my older brother came home with the Star Wars Best of PC bundle, he offered me a choice of 2 games from the collection. Knowing that I loved Age of Empires, he handed me the disc with Empire at War, telling me it was the same game, just the Star Wars version. From that moment, it was my disc, and I remember seeing it for the first time, looking at the X-Wing ships on one side and this beautiful Jedi woman on the other. When I asked my brother what the second game was, he said he hadn't heard of it before. So I just brushed it off. For about a month or so, I only played Empire at War. Then one day, my curiosity got the better of me and I decided to try out Knights of the Old Republic. That night turned out to be one of the most memorable gaming experiences of my life. The freedom to create my own character, choosing their gender, customizing their appearance, selecting skills, perks, and abilities. It was all so new and exciting to me, and I hadn't even started the actual game yet. Since it was my first RPG, I was completely clueless about the mechanics, but that didn't stop me from immersing myself in the game, my eyes being absolutely glued to the screen all night. I remember randomly telling my dad the next day that I just got a new apartment in Star Wars because of the hideout you get on Taurus. He looked at me like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? It took me well over a year to beat KOTOR. Not because it's really long, just because sometimes the game would crash a lot and my build was utter dog shit. It didn't matter to me though. I loved every single moment in that game. Falling in love with the characters, hearing all the amazing music, to eventually being mind blown by the plot twist. Showed one of my friends this game to at a sleepover, and we got in trouble when my mom found out that we stayed up all night playing it. Growing up, I realized that KOTOR was considered to be one of the best RPGs of all time. After that, it made me feel blessed for it to be my first role-playing experience, making Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic my all-time favorite game and RPG. So you could only guess how excited I was when I discovered that there was a second game, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords. Unfortunately, it was a few years after I'd beaten KOTOR that I found out about its sequel. But that's okay because it gave me plenty of time to play the first one over and over. Once I learned about the Sith Lords, I knew I had to have it. So after going out and mowing some lawns, I made enough money to buy a PC copy off eBay. Back then, when you got stuff off the internet, it took a few weeks to get to your doorstep. Being overexcited about the game, I went on YouTube and found some random channel that had just started a first-time Let's Play. Every day he'd upload and I'd watch the video after school. His videos played a big part in making me want to upload my own Let's Plays. All these years later being the reason I started this channel. Sadly, it was such a long time ago that I used to watch his channel. I can't remember his name and I can't find his videos anymore. I hope that guy's doing alright and living a good life. Anyway, after getting my copy, I was obsessed. A new Star Wars RPG experience. This time around, the writing and story were darker, the mechanics were more in depth, the level cap was increased to 50, and it was more buggy. But the bugs didn't stop me from spending dozens of hours in this game, most of which was probably spent talking to Kreia, learning about the Force, about how Jedi are not always good, and for the most part are a bunch of idiots. Learning that the Sith are not always evil, but for the most part are a bunch of edgy idiots. In all seriousness, this game in its own way introduced me to a lot of interesting philosophies at a young age. Ideas that challenged me, making me think about life from different perspectives. After looking it up on the internet, I can see that I'm not the only one, and it's crazy to think that any video game could do that, let alone a Star Wars D&D style RPG from 2004. Making Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords, my second favorite RPG of all time. Now moving forward a few years to March 2012, and your boy Pepper had finally gotten a PS3. I always wanted one, and now I had one. I got to play Killzone 3, Resistance Fall of Man, Uncharted 2, but funny enough, the game I played most that summer was a game that I could have played on PC. That game was Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Oblivion would not be my first Elder Scrolls game, that'd be the third title, Morrowind, but Oblivion sure would be the first Bethesda game that I would obsess over. Spending countless hours traveling the rich, beautiful open world, interacting with all the funny NPCs, and playing some of the best DLC content known to man. Horse armor and all. The fact that you could make your own custom spells, become an arena grand champion, and have Sean Bean as a companion just made it seem like the perfect fantasy experience. This game is one of those RPGs to have a completely different vibe than other games. Yes, it has problems, but I'd argue that they make it better, at least some of them. And Oblivion is goated for its Mages Guild, Thieves Guild, and Dark Brotherhood quest lines. It also has some of the most memorable moments in gaming for me. The time I spent playing it that summer almost feels like a dream. I'd say if I had to choose to experience one game for the first time again, it would be Oblivion. And that's why Elder Scrolls 4 is my third favorite RPG of all time. Now, unlike PC and Xbox, when playing games on PlayStation, you earn trophies instead of achievements for completing challenges in the game. Collect all the trophies, then you get the Platinum Trophy. The ultimate way to show your friends you have no life. I have a few of these. The first Platinum I ever got was for a little game called Bloodborne.
Oh, yes. Pale blood. Well, you've come to the right place. Yharnam is the home of blood ministration. You need only unravel its mystery. But where's an outsider like yourself to begin? Easy, with a bit of Yharnam blood of your own. Good. All signed and sealed. Now, let's begin the transfusion. Oh, don't you worry. Whatever happens, you may think it all a mere bad dream.
Bloodborne was my second Souls game, and for like many others, it is my favorite. To me, it has the best combat, the fact that you have to be more aggressive or you'll most likely die. I love this because my go-to build in Souls games are high stamina and low health builds. It just makes sense to me. If I'm fast enough, you can't hit me, so I don't need to be tanky. This game took that idea and put it on steroids, so start to finish I was hooked. The 2-type weapon system is so much fun. Bloodborne's story is my favorite as well, along with the hub, music, and final boss. I will say Elden Ring's Maiden is probably my favorite Souls waifu though. Other than that, the setting and mood is so incredible. It's another game that has that dreamlike quality, but this time around it's a nightmare. A truly beautiful one though. And that's why Bloodborne is my 4th favorite RPG of all time. Have you ever had a game that you were so excited to play that when you got it, you played it for 20 hours straight? Well, I have. And that game was Fallout New Vegas. Don't get me wrong, I love most of the Fallout games, especially 2, 3, and 4, but when it comes to Fallout, you just can't beat New Vegas. I remember after buying it on Steam, I convinced my brother to let us room swap for that Friday night so I could play New Vegas all night on his gaming PC. I remember sitting down, starting it up, playing a little bit, and then my brother comes back in the room and asks me if I had slept at all. I pull up the Steam tab and it shows me that I just played that shit for 20 hours in one sitting. I look back at my brother probably looking like some crusty ass SpongeBob close-up. I could not believe this game had stolen that much attention from me. My favorite thing about this game would have to be the dialogue choices it gives you. I love it when games really go out of their way to give you so many different types of roleplay styles. The DLC in this game is also god tier. I would have to say Joshua Graham is probably one of the most complex characters ever written for a video game, which makes sense because New Vegas has the same writer from KOTOR 2, and that game had Kreia, who is also considered one of the greatest Star Wars characters in the franchise as a whole, so much that even Disney wants to ruin her. But the mod scene for New Vegas is insane. People still to this day are creating mods for the game, and even some are trying to port the game entirely into a new game engine. But after all the great things that this title has to offer, I would say the best thing about this Fallout would have to be this toaster.
I am online once again! Tremble, world, before my electric heating coil of doom!
New Vegas is my 5th favorite RPG of all time. Now, I consider myself to be a healthy person, but for a while, almost every December around New Year's, I'd get some type of fever, cold, or flu. The first New Year's that started this streak was back in 2012. My brother had gone out with friends, and my parents attended some New Year's Eve party. For the first time in my life, I was alone on the last night of the year. But I didn't care, because I was exploring the frozen tundra outside of Winterhold in Skyrim. I remember seeing the clock strike midnight, focusing on the beautiful starscape and the ethereal music playing in my headset. It made me feel as if I was in the game. I was the Dragonborn. With all that power, all those stolen items, all those things I had accomplished, just like me, the Dragonborn was alone on New Year's Eve. We were alone together in the middle of nowhere with a $1,000 bounty. In that moment, I was happy. Funny enough, this wouldn't be the last year I'd be sick alone playing Skyrim. In fact, it ended up being quite the tradition since it happened another 6 times. 4 of them were in a row right after the first year. The last time was in 2018. That new year, I got really sick. I could barely hold up the Switch, but still managed to play a little bit. Now you must be thinking, why isn't Pepper talking about the story, quests, or mechanics? Well, that's because when it comes to Skyrim, the main thing I like to do is walk around and look at pretty shit. Even when I downloaded all those mods and spent literally 2 days translating the text for this one Japanese companion mod just so I could understand what the waifus were talking about, along with the improved weather systems and full body rig for the VR version of Skyrim. Do you know what the first thing I did was after all those mods? I stared up at the sky outside of the College of Winterhold in the middle of the night, looking at 4K snowflakes falling from the heavens for about 20 minutes. Out of everything this game has to offer, the atmosphere is what does it for me. That's why Skyrim is my 6th favorite RPG of all time. Growing up when it came to game consoles, we're always a generation behind or just using the cheaper option, since our family didn't have a lot of money. When everyone else had an N64, we had a Sega Genesis. When all my friends had a PS2 or Xbox, we got a GameCube. When everyone went on to play the 360 and PS3, we picked up a PS2 Slim. And I'm not complaining. I'm quite grateful that my parents did the best with what we had and still got us some games. Considering some kids weren't allowed to play games growing up, or their families couldn't afford any type of console, I was truly blessed. To this day, the GameCube is still my favorite console. But after all that time, I was finally working, making my own money. One of my goals was buying the console I had always wanted as a kid, the OG Xbox.
Wow! Sonic Riders of Major League Baseball 2K6! Star Wars Battlefront 2? Stacked!
Need for Speed Underground 2? Can we have some now, Mummy?
You'll ruin your dinner. You can't eat them, Mom.
Or can you?
With it, I was able to play Halo, Knights of the Old Republic, Jade Empire, and Psychonauts on the console. But the game that really got me was Fable. When talking about Oblivion and Bloodborne, you know how I said that game almost felt like a dream to me? Well, Fable is another one that's like that. It gives me that feeling. The world, characters, and music live in the back of my mind to this day, rent-free. I can't help but feel like the beginning of that game was the perfect start to any fantasy adventure. It's a young boy growing up in a humbled village that gets attacked by bandits, who destroys everything and everyone he's ever known, only for him to grow through the years of training to either become the hero the world needs or the villain it deserves. You could also get married and beat your wife. Become a landlord, owning all the homes in the land. Then go home and beat your wife. Fight in the arena, kill werewolves, become an obese alcoholic, and then go home and beat your wife. Fable might not have the most groundbreaking story or moral choices, but it does have something I'd argue is more important. It has charm, it has wonder, and it has a magic to it. That is something most fantasy games just lack in general. I did play the second game all the way through, and I got about halfway through the third one, but I have to say the first title just really has a hold on me. I'm guessing that even though it was already over 10 years old when I first played it, I still had no idea what I was in for. Thinking about it, this game just makes me happy. Fable is my 7th favorite RPG of all time. Have you ever dreamed about being a king, master of your own castle, commander of an army set to conquer the world in front of you? Who doesn't daydream about that at least once in their life? I used to. Sometimes I still do. But one day, many moons ago, my brother got a game that would let me live those fantasies out to the fullest.
Now stand aside, worthy adversary.
'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch? Your arm's off.
No, it isn't.
Well, what's that then?
I've heard worse.
Mountain Blade Warband, a classic that is considered by many to be a perfect blend of strategy, RPG, and simulation mechanics. Even with its horrendous graphics for the time and crazy jank, Warband is one of the most addictive games that I have spent hundreds and hundreds of hours of my life playing. And the game only ends when you say it does. Start off as a peasant, working your way up to become a mercenary for a king, only to grow stronger and enter under the king as a lord, going to war with different countries, burning villages, besieging castles. Love your king, stay loyal to him to the very end. Hate your king, play the game of politics with the dukes and lords of the kingdom in an act of betrayal to take the throne. Or just straight up start a civil war by splitting and starting your own kingdom. You can either destroy them, be destroyed, or make peace. Or how about fuck all that? Maybe you just want a simple life. Become a trader, open your own shops in different countries, start a caravan and establish trade routes, become rich and use that bankroll to form a new kingdom and buy an army. Start a war, kill your enemies, or just sell them into slavery. Throw festivals and lavish parties to celebrate your victories. Or how about starting as a nobody, entering into tournaments around the lands, winning and being held at the king's banquet as a champion, dedicating your victory to a fair lady of the kingdom, only for her husband to be a lord and get mad and challenge you to a duel. The only problem for him being that you're a gladiator and he's a dead man. Boom, now you've gained enough renown and favor to marry the lady and become a lord in the kingdom. Or you could just go the entire game being a bandit, where you just rob people and run away from the police because they will fuck your shit up. I could go on and on about all the ways you could play this game. Didn't even talk about the companions or the main quest line or the multiplayer or the fact that this game has one of the greatest mod selections that you can choose from. You can turn the entire world into Game of Thrones or Middle Earth or Star Wars or whatever the hell this shit is. This game has so much to offer. It's a timeless experience, and whenever I get that itch to be king, I can always come back to it. Mountain Blade Warband is my 8th favorite RPG of all time.
My lord?
We all have that period of time that we can't help but feel nostalgia for. We're just compelled to romanticize it, forgetting all the bad things and remembering the good as perfect moments in our lives. For me, this was the early 2000s. The movies, TV shows, and video games just seemed better. Everything just seemed better back then. But what if you didn't play a game from back then? Would it still hold up today, even though you're not blinded by those rose-tinted glasses? In the case of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, the answer is yes. I didn't play this game until October of 2022, almost a whole 20 years after its release, which by the way, the whole first playthrough is on my channel. Check it out if you want to have a good time. But shameless plug aside, playing the GOG version of this game, which comes with a major patch, I was worried it would still crash a lot like most other older computer RPGs. I'm looking at you, Dragon Age Origins, but no, not once did this game crash. That was pretty impressive to me. But the game is nothing short of a masterpiece. The build variety is amazing, with all the different clans you can choose from, one that completely changes the entire way you have to play the game since you can't be seen by humans at all. You just gotta hide in the sewer, eating rats. And I mean, let's be honest, even with my super OP Matrix slow-mo style Toreador build, I was still hiding in the sewer, eating rats. Besides character builds, the dialogue in this game is so well written, and the voice acting sells. That style of early 2000s natural feeling. Like, this is how these people in this world would really talk. Also this.
Remedies is honest work. I came to America after discharge from Chinese Herbal Remedies forces to help aging parents restore. Definitely, I am now American citizen. God bless the Allegiance flag!
Bloodlines does not give a fuck. It's unapologetic with its dark themes, humor, and sexual innuendos. This game has a level of depth that seems almost impossible for most modern developers to replicate. Its facial animations are still really good for a 2004 game that makes talking to NPCs even more fun. They go hard on the atmosphere as well, giving you the feeling of being in the early 2000s. The story is cool as hell, and with so many different endings, Bloodlines has so much replayability. It also has one of the most loyal and welcoming fan bases I've seen on the internet. Some seasoned masquerade YouTubers would just watch my playthrough and give me tips. I'm grateful for them for being the first group of people to really watch what I was doing and give me feedback with each upload. It really encouraged me to keep uploading to YouTube, and without that, I probably would not have started an Oblivion playthrough. And it hurts that a game like this, with the fan base that it has, is getting a horrible looking sequel that feels completely tone deaf from what the fans want. I'll stop there, but I made an entire video going deeper into this if you're interested in what I have to say. And with 2 shameless plugs and a whole lot of love, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is my 9th favorite RPG of all time. Now, after all that, I guarantee you won't be able to guess what the last game is on this list. In fact, I'll give you 7 seconds to guess. No, go ahead, say it out loud. Nope, it's not that. All the games I've talked about so far besides Warband are single player games. But this game is actually a co-op RPG. One that I played with my best friend Jared from start to finish. That game is Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2. Back around 2015, my friend and I used to play a lot of OG Xbox games. One day, us being 2 broke idiots, we went into a retro gaming store that we liked and asked the nerdiest employee in there to recommend a game that we could play together for the old console, saying we had already played Halo and all the other shooters. We wanted to play something different, something cool. The wise nerd then walked over to a section of the store and came back saying, "You guys need to play this," holding up a case with a badass looking dark elf chick on it. "This is one of the best hidden gem games of all time," he said as he handed it to my friend. "You could play as a warrior or a mage, finding cool loot, leveling up your dude, and fighting a bunch of cool shit. The game was also like $24. Us being broke as fuck, my friend and I looked at each other. Without saying a word, we knew we had to play it. So we both started going through our pockets like a couple of crack addicts to see if we had enough cash to buy the game. And would you know it? We did, with like $1 to spare. The OG Xbox gods were looking favorably upon us. We took that thing home and became obsessed with it that summer. There were days when we would just get cheap Chinese takeout or some $5 hot and ready pizza and just chill playing it. I played the Barbarian, Jared played as the Necromancer Eandro, then quickly realized that the Necromancer sucks, so we restarted with him playing as the Dwarf Goldhand. The game was so addicting, I couldn't tell you every single moment of the story because the story wasn't that good, but I can tell you about the most legendary merchant in any video game who always says,
My prices are always more than fair, friend.
To this day, my friend and I will say that line, and even if nobody else gets it, we still laugh our asses off. You could say this game by itself is pretty bland by today's standards, but with a friend, it turns into one of the best games you'll ever play. And we did play it a lot. We beat the game 4 times. Unlocked the secret OP character. We did a run where we used all the wacky old style in-game cheats. But the funny thing about this game is when we first got it home and started playing it, we figured out that it was a Dungeons and Dragons game. We didn't want our friends to think that we were nerds, so we didn't tell anybody about it, but we are nerds, and now I love D&D games. This one especially. It's not better than Baldur's Gate 3, but it doesn't have to be for me to like it more. It's okay to like things that aren't considered the best of the best. This game to me is a masterpiece. And who would have thought that $24 would give me something so priceless? A great memory with a good friend. That's why Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2 is my 10th favorite RPG of all time. If you made it to this point in the video, then I just want to say thank you for watching. I don't really make videos like this, but let me know if you enjoyed it and I'll make more. Also, what do you think about the games on this list? There are more RPGs, but I thought I'd just keep it to 10. Would you want to see more? You know, do you like the same games? If not, tell me about the ones you love, because it makes me happy when you guys tell me about that stuff. Also, like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're on a warpath to get 1,000 subscribers so that I can finally sell out and make $2 off YouTube. Then eventually I'll start making really crappy t-shirts and a podcast that nobody likes. So make yourself at home and buckle up. Thank you all to the people that support me. I hope you all have an amazing day, an amazing night, and I will see you in the next video.